In the early morning hours of November 9, 1937, a sense of numbness settled over Huddersfield's residents as news spread like wildfire about the tragic accident that had befallen John Wooten. The young man, just 33 years old, had been attempting to cross the road when he was struck by an oncoming vehicle. Despite efforts to revive him, Wooten's body remained still and unresponsive, lying motionless on the pavement for several hours. As the sun began to rise over the quiet town, a somber mood pervaded the community, with many residents stopping by the scene to pay their respects to the deceased. But what unfolded next would leave even the most hardened of souls stunned. In a shocking turn of events, Wooten's family, who had been preparing for his funeral, received an extraordinary phone call from the local undertaker. The undertaker informed them that John Wooten was, in fact, alive. It seemed that during the commotion and chaos following the accident, Wooten's body had been mistakenly identified as that of another person, a 35-year-old man who had indeed met his demise on the same fateful night. As news of this bizarre mix-up spread like wildfire, residents were left scratching their heads in utter bewilderment. How could such a grave mistake have occurred? And what did it say about the reliability of their medical system? The revelation sent shockwaves through Huddersfield, leaving many to wonder how John Wooten's fate had been sealed so hastily. The incident raised serious questions about the importance of accurate identification and the potential for human error in emergency situations. As the town struggled to come to terms with this extraordinary twist, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again in Huddersfield. John Wooten's body lay on the pavement for several hours, a stark reminder to the people of Huddersfield that life can be extinguished in an instant. As news of his death spread, it seemed a tragedy of unmitigated sorrow had befallen the community. But as fate would have it, something peculiar was brewing. At approximately 8:45 p.m. on November 9, 1937, John Wooten's body began to exhibit signs that defied explanation. His limbs started to twitch and convulse, sending shockwaves of unease through the small crowd gathered around him. The medical team on scene, comprising Dr. Frederick Johnson and his assistants, were baffled by this sudden development. As word of the inexplicable occurrences surrounding John Wooten's body spread like wildfire, the townsfolk's collective gasp turned to whispers of dread. How could a man who had been pronounced dead be exhibiting signs of life? Were the medical professionals present merely witnessing some strange anomaly, or was something more sinister at play? The initial assessment by Dr. Johnson and his team indicated that John Wooten's brain activity levels were indeed registering, albeit faintly. This raised more questions than answers. Was he truly alive, or simply experiencing a macabre form of death throes? The ambiguity surrounding this unprecedented situation hung precariously in the balance as the medical community wrestled to comprehend what they were witnessing. John Wooten's family and friends were present at the scene, their faces etched with both hope and despair. As news of his possible return spread, their collective hearts sank with every passing minute that failed to bring a spark back into John's eyes. Little did they know that this was only the beginning of an extraordinary tale that would captivate Huddersfield and beyond, challenging conventional wisdom on life and death itself. As night descended upon Huddersfield, an eerie sense of expectation settled over the community, each person holding their collective breath as they waited to see if John Wooten would defy all odds and emerge from this living death. As the hours passed, John Wooten's body remained still and silent on the pavement. The local police were summoned to the scene, and a coroner's report was drawn up confirming his death due to severe head injuries sustained in the accident. However, it is here that the extraordinary events begin to unfold. A short while later, at approximately 3:45 p.m., John Wooten suddenly regained consciousness. This shocking turn of events sent shockwaves through the community, with many eyewitnesses present at the scene struggling to comprehend what they had just witnessed. As paramedics and medical personnel attended to him, it became apparent that not only was he alive but also seemed to be in relatively good health, considering from Schmidt's room. The exact nature and extent of these injuries were meticulously documented by doctors, who noted a severe concussion, multiple lacerations, later recalled witnessing the same phenomenon, a local authority stirring within Schmidt's body. increasingly perplexed as something remarkable, Diane Schmidt's eyes had opened. Despite being declared clinically dead for nearly an hour, Schmidt began to show signs of regaining consciousness. The nurses immediately alerted the medical team, who rushed back into the emergency room. The attending physician on duty at the time, Dr. William Jenkins, confirmed that Schmidt's heart was now beating, albeit weakly. Her brain waves were also detectable, indicating a return from what seemed to be certain death. As news of this extraordinary event spread throughout the hospital, medical professionals and staff alike were stunned into silence. The implications were profound. Could it be possible for the human body to defy the laws of mortality? As we delve deeper into the case of Diane Schmidt's return from the dead, several questions arise regarding the medical procedures that took place in the hours following her initial declaration of death. The hospital's protocol for declaring a patient deceased typically involves multiple checks and verifications by medical staff. However, it appears that these standard procedures were not followed, or at least not documented. One can't help but wonder if Diane Schmidt's brain activity was misinterpreted due to a lack of proper equipment or training in the early 1970s. At the time, technology for measuring brain activity and detecting even minimal signs of life was relatively primitive compared to today's standards. The possibility that medical staff might have made an error in interpreting her neurological status raises more questions about the accuracy of their assessment. Furthermore, Diane Schmidt's return from death has significant implications for our understanding of the human body's capacity for recovery. This incident challenges the conventional wisdom on what constitutes brain death and how it can be accurately diagnosed. If medical professionals are unable to definitively determine when a person is truly dead, this raises concerns about organ harvesting practices and the ethics surrounding these procedures. Experts in various fields have since attempted to explain Diane Schmidt's miraculous recovery through various theories, including hypothermia-induced coma or undiagnosed conditions such as narcolepsy. However, these theories often come with their own set of contradictions and inconsistencies that fail to fully account for her complete collapse and subsequent revival. On the fateful night of April 30, 1972, a series of events would forever alter the course of Diane Schmidt's life. Pronounced dead by medical professionals at Bayfront Medical Center, her body was prepped for autopsy and subsequent burial. But as the morgue staff began their work, something inexplicable occurred. Diane's heart, which had stopped beating hours earlier, suddenly started pumping blood once more. The medical team was stunned, unable to comprehend how this could be happening. They immediately notified the hospital's administration, who in turn alerted the coroner's office. But as news of Diane's miraculous revival began to spread, questions arose about the circumstances surrounding her death and subsequent resurrection. Rumors swirled that Diane had been misdiagnosed, a common occurrence at the time. Others speculated that she may have been a victim of mistaken identity. Yet, as medical experts delved deeper into the case, it became clear that something more extraordinary was at play. Diane's brain activity, previously deemed non-existent, was now pulsing with electrical signals. The medical team's confusion turned to awe as they struggled to understand the mechanisms behind this phenomenon. They pored over her medical records, searching for any clues that might explain why she had been declared dead in the first place. But the more they examined, the more enigmatic the case became. Diane Schmidt's miraculous return from the dead would go on to captivate the nation, sparking heated debates about life, death, and the boundaries between them. Diane Schmidt's inexplicable return from the dead has become an enigma, a mystery that continues to haunt the small town of St. Petersburg, Florida, where it all began. As we delve into lay out John's clothes, Alice noticed a faint abundantly clear. Nothing about Diane's revival makes logical sense. First, she thought it was just a trick of the light or her own tired eyes playing tricks on her, but as she peered closer, she could have sworn she saw. As we reflect on the events that transpired in Huddersfield on November 9, 1937, it's clear that John Wooten's supposed demise was merely a brief pause in his life story. The notion that he had returned from the dead sparked a mix of awe and trepidation among the townsfolk. Some saw it as a miracle, while others regarded it as an anomaly best left unexplained.